Chapter 6: Social Policy to Address the Worst Economic Catastrophe in U.S. History. So first we have to look at why the Great Depression actually started to happen. It all started with the collapse of the stock market in October of 1929. People were suffering financially and physically. There was controversy about the cause of the Great Depression. Some argued it was the insufficient capital available, and some say it was because the American consumers lacked enough resources to purchase goods. The time between 1929 and 1933 was known as the Period of Denial. Herbert Hoover was president, but his methods and mindset were not capable of handling this big of a crisis in our nation. Shortly after, a new figure came onto the scene. Franklin Roosevelt became president in 1932, and along with his wife Eleanor, he would help save our nation with his innovative qualities and willingness to do whatever was needed to find a solution. One of the good things about FDR was that he appealed to the middle class as well as the working class. Even in a time of financial suffering, Roosevelt and his advisors always had well-developed ideas that they generally agreed upon. And let's also not forget about the unwavering support he had from his wife. Even though FDR did have a lot of support, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce resisted reforms in both local and national arenas. The Supreme Court didn't support the implementation of the New Deal, an experimental program that attempted to bring prosperity to many Americans. There was also a lack of well-developed radical movements in the United States. Ultimately, Roosevelt's main goal was to end the Great Depression and make America and its people stronger than before. He was able to do this by increasing federal spending, stopping the vicious circle of job and price cuts in industry, averting foreclosures, restoring confidence in banks, and reviving economies all over the U.S. Roosevelt's list of successes that occurred because of the New Deal included the establishment of the Social Security Act, which gave the elderly and the disabled federal assistance. These benefits were funded by the payroll taxes placed on employers. The Wagner Act was also a result of the New Deal, and its establishment in 1935 protected workers' rights to unionize. Yes, the New Deal did a lot of good for our country, but it still left a lot of people oppressed and lacking basic rights. Even though women gained the right to vote in 1920, this did not lead to a lot of other advantages. The NRA labor codes established lower wages for women, and Social Security didn't give benefits to women until 1939. Eleanor Roosevelt was a well-known advocate for the establishment of women's rights in the workplace. Not only were women lacking rights, but so were African Americans. Jim Crow laws still remained, and the KKK made a reappearance in the 1920s, causing violence and hate crimes towards minorities. FDR really didn't make civil rights a main focus, so the discrimination prevailed. Social work was up and coming in the workplace because of all the problems that came out of the Great Depression. Family disruption, medical problems, and school-related issues increased the demand for social workers. The Great Depression and World War I benefited social work because they revealed the need for social assistance in societies. The success of FDR's policies was due to the fact that social programs were the main focus. His social welfare innovations were put in place to keep conservatives from dismantling his reforms after World War II. The New Deal was the first journey into the economic safety net, and it saved the lives of many Americans.
Created using Powtoon.